I pulled over in the driveway of a McDonald's. I owned 2 locations at the time. I was so tired. I had my son in the back. I took a nap in the driveway just to go to the second location. That's how tired I was. And so after that, I was like, I can't do this alone.
Hey, it's your girl Nancy Red, and this is season 4 of Mompreneurs, where we celebrate beautiful Black entrepreneurs who are also amazing moms. Now, every week I'm chatting with my guests about how they're killing it simultaneously as a business mogul and as a mom. We're listening to their inspiring journeys and incredible advice. Now, it's not a stretch to say my next mompreneur is revolutionizing the wellness world and also other people's businesses by sharing all of the advice that she has learned when she started Kika Stretch Studios, which is a fast-growing franchise with 20 spots around America that's built around her innovative assisted stretching method. Now, Kika Wise is not one just to have her own franchise. Now, she's been doing this for 10 years. They're all over America. But also she realized, okay, now I'm the first Black female franchisor in the country. I need to help other people do this too. So she has an incredible company, Black Box, which is designed to help you franchise your business. And she's already got 18 people in the game. So we can't wait to hear what this incredible mompreneur who has been through hell and high water to get to where she is. And she is a wonderful inspiration and the perfect person for me to talk to today. Welcome, Kika. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I love the work you do. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, well, the work that you do is incredible because you're living the dream. Because many people want to start a business. Oftentimes, getting off the ground is very hard. I have so much I want to talk to you about because it was hard for you, but not impossible. And you made it through a lot of adversity. You made it through a lot of lack of information. And not only are you successful for your business now, but you're also sharing this information with other people so they don't make the mistakes that you had to make because you didn't have any help. But before we get into all this, I always ask everyone, who puts the mom in Mompreneurs? Who is in your household?
I have a husband and 3 children plus 1 dog.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. How old are your babies?
So my daughter is 5, my son is 15, and my daughter's 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you've got some space there. I was the baby. My brother's 9 years older than me, so I know your daughter is living her best life.
And she wants a sibling, but I can't do it. She wants a younger sibling. So that's why I got the dog.
Okay, but so you're amazing because you just decided that you were going to start a business. 2011 is when you initially started your stretch studio. Before that, were you a business person? Did you grow up with business inclinations as a kid?
So I was a professional dancer. I studied dance and received a degree in dance. I started crying at my graduation. Like, what have I done? What am I going to do with this degree? But I did act and dance professionally in Manhattan for years. And so I came to the point where I wanted to define my own future in a more solid way. I was sick of being a starving artist. So I sat down with my mother and my best friend and I was like, should I go back to school or start a business? And they were like, you should start a business. You should do that stretching thing that you always do. And so that's what prompted me to want to start a business. And I also did not have enough money to go back to school. So that was the first thing that propelled me. And I used my creativity that I've learned from dancing and acting, and I just applied it to business.
And now at the same time you're birthing the business, coming up with this idea, you're also birthing your firstborn. You came into mompreneurship at the same time that you came into being a mother.
My son was 6 months old when I first started this journey. For the first year, I would read every business book I could read. I learned about guerrilla marketing. How can I get clients with little to no money? And so he was sitting, I have pictures of him sitting on my lap as a toddler while I have my laptop on my lap and I'm just researching. So he's been there for my whole journey of an entrepreneur. It's pretty wild when I think about it.
Okay, mamas, so if you too are fed up with being a starving artist, if you too are thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this, but I can't afford to go back to school, Kika is a great example of someone who you did not have a formal business education. You did not come from a family of business people. You had a product, which is your unique stretching program that you developed simply because you were a dancer, and the drive to not be broke.
Yes. I couldn't have said it better. Yes. That's exactly what it was. The drive, and the drive that's what has kept me going this whole time.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. For people who don't know, who don't live in an area where one of your 20 spots are, what is Kika Stretch Studios?
So imagine lying on a mat and having a coach gently stretch out your entire body for you. So we help release the tension that's been trapped in your body for years. So I can attribute it to maybe like a yoga and massage mixed together. But in yoga, you hold the positions and your muscles are like gripping to hold it. Here, you're lying flat on the mat and we actually stretch your body out for you. You don't have to do much. And we have a unique measuring system which tells you how old you are in stretch years. So your stretch age is much different than your physical age. And so that's how we track results. I call it the Botox for your inner body. We help keep you young through stretching.
I love that, Botox for your inner body, and I love a good stretch. I think that it's a very important aspect of physical and mental well-being, right? And when you first started, though, you did not have visions of just Kika Stretch Studios all over America. You just had a vision of doing something that had a steady income compared to being a professional dancer. What did you start with? Like, did you start with a studio? Did you start with, dreams of grandeur? How did you begin Kika Stretch Studios back in 2011 with your 6-month-old?
Yeah, so I started with my last $500. I rented a room that I shared with a realtor, and I stood outside, I passed out brochures, and people were like, stretching? Like, why do you need somebody to stretch? So I had to educate the consumer a lot in the beginning, but once the word started to, I was going to say stretch, once the word started to spread, people started trying it. So it was a new concept when I started it. And I initially started on a small scale. My main goal was to take care of my son and be involved with his life. So I actually didn't start off to scale. I didn't even know what scaling strategically meant. It just happened all by accident, the business side of it. So I learned a lot of things as I went along. By the time you knew it, I was in a storefront. Then I was, the New York Times did a story on me. And I was like, what just happened? Like, wait, what just happened? And it just became this thing. But my initial starting point was just to be involved in my son's life, take care of him. And like you said, not be broke, not be a starving artist anymore.
And what's so great about it is, again, so many times you can get the advice that, okay, well, don't start until you've got it all figured out, or you go to business school and spend some money on a course. You went to the library and got some books. And then you smartly started small, not with your own place, but sharing a studio, which meant that you could spend more time out there getting clients and educating people. What was it like when the first client started coming in and you realized that you were onto something?
My first client was the realtor who I was sharing a space with, his friend. And so he bought a 10-pack, which was a few $100s. And so once he bought that after his first session, I was like, okay, I'm on to something. And it's so funny because I didn't know that he was a business tycoon in the area. He was a very well-known electric company owner, but then he owned several houses and properties, and he told me how he flipped them. He started small and grew big. And one of the things he told me that I never forgot, I should say, that I always try to go back to is keep your overhead low. And I did it for so long, up until COVID, then the world, everything got out of control. But just remembering that is so key, to always keep your overhead low. And if you're able to keep it low, you'll be able to do so many things because you won't be as restricted as if you're just like in over your head.
That's so incredible. It's my hairdresser. She rented a studio. And then at some point she decided, I'm going back to my house. And I said, girl, that's great. Whatever you can do to keep your overhead low, because that's $1,500 back in your pocket that you don't have to raise our rate.
And I think sometimes like our egos get struck and we're like, I need more, and that's the complete opposite of the way that you should do it. So I think now in this world that we're in, people are starting to realize that, and they're making better use of smaller spaces to really grow their brand.
Yes, you were ahead of the curve, right? Like, you have a business, you smartly rent a studio that you can afford, and hilariously, if you had gotten your own independent studio, you would not have had this mogul as your first client giving you this advice.
Wow, I never even thought about that. Yes. You see, it all happens for a reason. It's so interesting. And actually, he owns, like, I think the last time he told me, like, 70 houses, literally 70 houses. And he would live in the attic with his whole family as a millionaire and rent out the rest of the house. And then once it was all rented, he would build another house and do the whole thing all over again. He limited his overhead by living in the attic of these houses he built from scratch. Like, and he's super successful. So that's the type of person to listen to.
Absolutely. And anyone listening, I think that's such a balm to our souls, right? Because so much of people, especially with social media, you think, oh, well, it's got to look flashy, it's got to be all white, it's got to be pristine, or otherwise people won't think I'm successful. But you've been in these streets now over 10 years. You've seen what success actually looks like. And what does success actually look like? Does it look like Attic Man? Or does it look like, or...
Yes, it looks like Attic Man. And this is such an important moment for people to hear, because especially in this economy with the cost of everything rising, the true success is freedom of time. Like, do you have time to spend with your kids? Do you have time to spend with yourself? Most business owners create something that they're trapped within, that it relies solely on them. They don't know how to delegate. And so they wind up creating a job for themselves, which is fine. But for it to be a business, it actually operates without you. So it's so important to keep your overhead low and just realize it's not about showing the flashy things. It's about, like, when you come home, are you happy? Are you really happy?
I love that. And I think the difference between having a business and a job is clutch. One of the great things about your journey is you accidentally found yourself in a job. That's kind of how we got here. You became successful, people were coming, but there's only so much that Kika can stretch in a day. And on top of it, you have a baby. So being a mother of a newborn is exhausting. Being a mother of a business is exhausting. So you're exhausted squared. Talk to us about some of the things that happened, especially that one day you were driving, that just really set in stone. Something's got to give. This business is successful, but I'm going to die.
And this is why I love your platform. And thank you so much for bringing light to this, because I feel like a lot of us women, we live it, but we don't speak about it. And speaking about it is so inspiring to others. So thank you for doing this. I pulled over in the driveway of a McDonald's when I had 2 locations. I owned 2 locations at the time. I was so tired. I had my son in the back. I took a nap in the driveway just to go to the second location. That's how tired I was. And so after that, I was like, I can't do this alone. So that's when I kind of came into the concept of franchising. But that never ends. Like, as a woman, like, I wake up, spend some time by myself, and then it's time for the children, getting them ready. And then I work, and then they're back home. So it's like, you're always tired. You have to find pockets of time where you can really pour into yourself, because your kids don't care about how stressed out you are or how tired you are. They want mom to show up. And this is like something that never goes away. And it's very exhausting to be a woman in business. But what I will say is that I always check myself, especially at this point of my career. Am I doing the most? Am I doing too much? Kika, you don't have to be. One day somebody was like, why do you want to keep spreading across the country? And I was like, you're right. why? Like, what is making me want to do this? Sometimes it can get out of control. So now my focus is really just having time, spending time with my kids, and just making sure I can take care of them. Honestly and truly, that's it. Like, I'm good.
But you had to get here. And one of the reasons you were hustling so hard, going from one store to the McDonald's parking lot for a nap to the other store, is because you were doing this by yourself. You know, my mom was a single mom and a business owner. And I look back and I'm just like, I have no idea how she did this. This looks untenable. But you do what you have to do. And a lot of people, when you were first starting, didn't even know you were a single mom.
Oh, you're so good. You know why you're so good? I didn't tell people that I was, because I didn't want them to judge me when I first started. I wanted them to judge me off of my work, not off of my condition. And so people had no idea when I first started my brand. And then when they found out, they were completely like, how you don't let, and I'm like, yeah. So my whole journey has been just helping encourage others. And now I wish I was like, yeah, I'm a single parent. You know, when you first start, like, yeah, well, see,
it was before, but you know what's funny? It was before social media. Like, now you could do a quick reel, like, this is my day in the life. And then you'd have like the little camera on you at McDonald's, like, but it was back before the narrative was something you could craft. The narrative was often crafted for you. So you were backed up against a wall in terms of what was an appropriate presentation for a business professional.
Yes. And I'm like, it's so crazy because I see entrepreneurs go through the worst parts of their life on Instagram. And it's unfortunate because sometimes they don't want to reveal all of that, but now we're in the age of social media. I'm like, I'm so thankful I had my biggest downfalls before all of this was popular. So now I go back and I repost the traumatic moments that happened in my life and use it for
like
inspirational
recreations. Well, no, I laugh. I was like, there's nothing better than being old enough for your crash outs to have happened privately. But the crash outs are key. And your evolution of this business, from one business to a second business to almost falling apart, to figure out what franchise even means, you're now in a position with your new business, Black Box, to help crash outs. The crash out's gonna happen, but what you can do is prevent it from completely ruining your life.
Yes. And also just having a safe space, like for us in Black Box, it's a safe space to, we like to say, air out your dirty closet or show your dirty closet, so we can help you. Because a lot of the times what you're experiencing is normal in business, but you can make a decision that can like ruin the trajectory of your brand. So it's so important to just talk to people you trust so they can help you, because you're usually one conversation away from being at the biggest point of your life. So that's what's so great about it. It's like something that feeds my soul and my spirit, because we're able to help people who need help, who don't know what they should do next.
Okay, so talk to us about, for people who are just tuning in, learning about you, Kika Wise, Kika Stretch Studios, which is your franchise of 20. How many spots do you have across America?
So we have 20, but we actually shifted our model as well. So now we're opening across the country in chiropractic centers. So if you're a chiropractor, reach out.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So that's saving overhead while also having a direct liaison to people who have, symbiotic businesses. They're not doing the stretch, but the stretch is a perfect complement, because the chiropractic appointment is like 15 minutes. If you can get them in longer and keep, that's a brilliant partnership. And did you come up with this?
Of course, yes. No, I'm not, of course. It started when a chiropractor reached out to franchise, and a lot of chiropractors, and usually when you franchise, you have to open up an additional space, of course. But chiropractors, they already have a space. So this one chiropractor reached out to me, and I was like, why don't we just set something up in your facility? And so it started from there. But we actually set up the chiropractor. We train the staff so they never have to even worry about it, and they can build a 6-figure business off of stretch in their existing practice. So that was a model that I wanted to create for this new world that we live in. And so we're just about to officially launch it next month.
That's absolutely brilliant. Okay, so this is where you began. You began with your own franchise as the first Black female franchisor in the country, which is incredible. Featured in the New York Times, doing all this. You're now pivoting so that you have little pop-ups in these chiropractor offices. But it's not just about this. You have figured out that other people, in particular other Black people, could do this as well if they had the tools that they needed in an accessible way. And that's how Black Box started, correct?
Correct. When I was developed as a franchisor, it was very transactional with the company I worked with. They took my money and they gave me paperwork, but I was like, what does this mean? I had so many questions that were left unanswered, and I realized when people say franchise development, most of the times they're talking about the transaction, not the actual development of the entrepreneur. So what I did with Black Box was created, and shout out to my partners who have contributed to this, but we've created a whole course within the development that teaches you what is a franchise, how does it work, what is your new job, and then we also handle the development. Most businesses don't have systems and processes so their business can flow easily. So we create all of that for these entrepreneurs. We make their life easier, and now we make it easy for other people to buy the same concept and run it just as smooth.
That's incredible. And what's interesting is people often don't even know what a franchise is. Like when you realize, when you were in that parking lot and you were going between your two locations and you realized that your business was successful but you couldn't keep it up the way this is, did you know what a franchise was at that point, or did you have to educate yourself on the entire world?
I had to educate myself on the entire world. And once I started reading about it, I'm like, why didn't anyone tell me about this? Like, I was so obsessed with learning about this new industry because it's not talked about often. And just for numbers, there's 33 million small businesses or so in the country. Less than 3,500 are franchise brands like McDonald's, Subway. Less than 1%, it's really less than 100%. Like, that's how bad it is. But less than 1% of those 3,500 are Black owned. And so in our community, we often talk about franchising and we think about buying a Burger King, buying a Chick-fil-A, but no one talks about turning your business into a Chick-fil-A, which is so possible. There's so much room. And so that's what we really focus on at Black Box, helping people turn their own concepts into a franchise model.
It's absolutely incredible. What has it been like to go and do what you had to do at first with Stretch, which is really interesting. You're very prescient, right? Because now anyone listening, most of you have seen a Stretch Lab or a Kika Stretch Studios, or you understand the importance of stretching because of an Instagram reel that just came onto you in the middle of the night when you're doom scrolling. But at first, in 2011, no one knew what that was, and you're trying to explain to them and build the movement. I am sure many people do not know what you're talking about at first when you say, your business could be a franchise. Are you having to do the same sort of advocacy that you had to do back in 2011 with Kika Stretch Studios?
It's so funny because, in 2008, that's when I really started researching before I opened in the first shared space. But in 2008, that's when there was a recession. And so now 2024 was the beginning of whatever type of economy we're in now. So I was like, this is so interesting. I'm starting a new concept that a lot of people have no idea what I'm talking about. And I find myself, it's almost 360, like starting again to get people to understand. But what I know now is how fast you have to move in order to really capture the market, so that when people think about franchising, they'll think Black Box because of how we sprinted. So I told my partners as soon as I started this, I was like, we have to run. We have to run because there's so much opportunity. And for everyone watching, there's so much opportunity right now. These are very tough times, but these are the times that are best to create something and just, I don't know what the secret sauce is, but there's something to be said about recessions and new ideas. So here we are again.
I love that. Listen, everyone listening, this is very important. And what's interesting is it's a time to run if you have a business already. Like, for example, the irony is Kika's business is helping businesses franchise. So when you, just for edification, when you're saying we got to run, it's because you don't want anyone else coming in and coming up with the incredible idea to help businesses franchise in a holistic way, right?
Yes, because like I said, I was developed into a franchise and there were so many missing pieces. And I asked myself, why hasn't anyone figured out that it has to start with truly supporting and helping the entrepreneur learn first and then helping them develop? So we've plugged in so many gaps. I always say the franchise industry is very archaic. So we're like the cool kids on the block. And so I think we're just doing so many amazing things, AI and corporation community, that we're so far ahead. I just want to help as many people as possible before they have an experience like I did, where franchising is cool now. They go with a company, it's transactional, and then they fail. So for me, It's about educating and letting people know, wait, this is really a safe space. Let us help you.
Now, right now you're working with 18 businesses to get their business franchised, right?
Yes.
Are all these people who came to you or who you found, are they people who had businesses already in place, or do some people start from the beginning, the nascent idea of the business? Do some people start immediately with franchising on the mind?
Yes. So we only reach out or help people who have an existing business model set up, who have been in business. It doesn't matter how long. The thing that matters is if they figured out how to make a profit. It could be, and a lot of people think that, I have to profit $1 million before I franchise. And that's not true. You can profit 20,000, 10,000, because what you're selling is really the work you've done. So there's people who $10,000 would be enough for them to want to buy your brand. So it doesn't matter how much money, it just depends on if you've made a profit. If you know how to make a profit, we'll do everything else for you. I actually have a small private group that I help. It's called Hands Off CEO, where I help very, 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 very new entrepreneurs get in the flow of working smarter and not harder. And then once they're making money, they can transition to franchising. But most of the people have had businesses, they've made money. They've made a lot of money, a little bit of money. They don't know how they made the money. So we help teach them. We go back.
Especially a specific, I'm not going to say especially us, because that's not fair, but often we're starting businesses on vibes and community support. But what you're doing is you're taking that 6-figure situation and doing and creating a structure that can turn into 7.
Yes, and that's literally what it is. And so many of us start businesses and we don't know the science of the business that we started. And Black Box is so crazy. I was like, I need a powerful name for this business.
Such a great name, because it's such a double entendre. Black people, box of entrepreneurship, but also people, you have to remember, the black box is the thing that's left over in the airplane when it crashes. And that's where all the font of information is retained.
Yes. And there's something to be said about me driving, because I was driving in my car and I was like, and the word black box, I know it was God, shout out to the Lord. The words black box came in my head and I was like, what? I'm not making this up. So I go to Google and I Google the meaning of black box. And the meaning is that the input is seen, the output is seen, but the inner workings are unknown. And for so many of us, the inner workings are our business. So I was like, I'm going to name it Black Box Franchising, because we're going to help you understand all the inner stuff that you have no idea what's going on, because that will help. Understanding that will help you scale to a 7-figure business easily.
I love it. And even if it doesn't get to 7-figure, you're still going to be better off. And also you'll feel, and I think one thing that you learned, because when you started off, you didn't have this information. You were just trying to make it. The more education you get about the process, the calmer you can be taking risks.
That was a whole word. I had to pause. Yes. And when we talk about anxiety, like a lot of people suffer from anxiety, especially in business. So much of the anxiety goes away if you plan in advance. So you're just following the plan. That's what you should do in your business. That's what we do in franchising. Because if you follow the plan, you don't worry as much. Even things are not going to go as planned all the time, but just having a plan helps you get back on track. And so that alone is a relief to the average small business owner. And that's the part that no one has time for to figure out. So we do it for you.
And see, you need a plan because you're busy, you got these kids. What do you think showing your kids and the next generation how to, when I say correctly start a business, I don't think that's fair, because if everyone correctly started a business, definitely you wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be here, but for the next generation, how do you think understanding business planning and savvy from an earlier generation can help?
Yeah, it's interesting because people often bring up, wow, you started it with no experience, and they see the success. But I made so many, I can call them life mistakes or mistakes, that could have taken me out but didn't. So it's always good to start with some knowledge. I just completely jumped myself in. But what I think that
Jump yourself in.
I'm not saying that you should do what I did, but what I believe, and now my son is old enough to have these conversations and he's able to like look at what I've done and talk about it. What I'm able to really get them to see is that you will face obstacles and you can overcome them. So I think my children will benefit from seeing the downside, the sad side, and seeing me win. So that's what children are going to benefit from, because I feel like sometimes now everything's instant gratification and success and money. But if you have your first moment of being on your hands and knees, feeling defeated, are you going to get back up? So I know that I've taught my children how to get back up. And that's honestly what I'm most proud of, them seeing what it really looks like to be successful.
Do you think they want to follow in your footsteps as an entrepreneur?
I'm like, go get a job. Go get a job.
Well, why can't they get a job in one of your franchises?
So I believe, so my son's the oldest, so he is going to have to work for someone else first, just to see what it's like. I feel like that's a good experience. And I'm joking about get a job, but I don't think entrepreneurship is for everyone, because if you look at every entrepreneur story, there's so many bad times that are had that really would just take the average person out. You have to overcome so much because you're creating your own lane. So if my kids are bold and they want to hit and run, go for it. I'm here to support you. But it's also not the only goal. It's also okay to have a job and be comfortable and just love showing up to work. For me, it's just doing what you love, whatever that is. So if my kids are crazy enough to follow my footsteps, I'll be praying for them every day and I'll be supportive.
Is there a failure in your past, in your business past, that you think really shaped you, that, like you said, it could have fallen you, but it didn't?
So as far as failure, so obstacle and failure are a bit different for me, because failure for me is wanting to do something and giving up. So unfortunately, I've never given up. So for me, that's success. But one of the biggest obstacles that I faced was when I moved into my first storefront. That was my main stream of income, and it caught on fire. And my brother, he came to my house. He's like, your studio's on fire. I'm like, what kind of sick joke? Like, he's like, no, for real. And so he takes me and it's like the smoke is going away. And this guy was standing next to me and he was like, oh, I just bought a package there. And I was like, he didn't know I was the owner. But at that moment, I realized, oh, it's not just about me anymore. So long story short, we had to relocate in the basement of a church for literally like 7 months. Pipes, rusty pipes, like vents that were from the 50s, and we stayed in business, and then we were able to move back to the storefront. At that exact low point of my life is when the New York Times reached out, like, can we do a story? I'm like, what? So what I've noticed is that when you have lows in life, the highs happen at the same exact time. So you have to, and this is the hard part, you have to encourage yourself to keep going, because you'll never get to the pot of gold if you give up. So that was one of the biggest.
I love that. And so when they did the story, was the fire part of it?
You know, that's so funny. It wasn't.
Because I was like, I don't think it was, but okay.
It wasn't.
It's just like, oh, you know. And that's the thing. But people still flock. But people don't realize, you were in the New York Times, like, my business is great. But you were in a basement of a church for a bit, you know? Like, and I think this normalizes all kinds of things. It normalizes narrative of a business. It normalizes just things happen, and you keep it moving.
Yeah, it's so funny you brought that up, because I'm thinking, and I'm like, I don't even know if we talked about the fire. But another thing is, I thought I owned my name. This is like my trademark. And then I learned, oh, you're supposed to actually file. This is when of course, when I first started. So then I look, oh, someone's using my name. At the time, it was called Power Stretch Studios. And so I call up the lady. She's like, oh, do you want a partner? And I'm like, she strategically did this because she saw what I was doing. And I was like, no, I don't want a partner. So then she got very, ugly, like, oh, well, you can't use the name. I spent so much money paying an attorney just to say, after I paid him, just change your name. It's probably better. And so that's where Kika came into Kika Stretch Studios. And in that article, I told the reporter, we're about to change the name before I changed it. So she mentioned Kika Stretch Studios because I was so afraid that this big article, they're going to reference someone else's brand. So it was just a wild time. Wild. But
it was the perfect time, and the thing, if you had to do it over again, you'd still do it all, right? Because it all worked out.
That's the thing. I would still do it over again. I would know that the pain points would be coming. So I'd be like, bracing for it. But it's all created who I am today and what I'm able to pour back into other people. And so that's the beautiful thing about it. And I tell people, learn from me, please ask me questions, because then you'll be able to avoid some of the horrific things that I've had to go through.
And it's poured into your family, because how has being a mompreneur changed your and your family's life?
It has helped me really understand what is important. Sometimes there are moments where I'm working too much and my kids are like, put the phone down, stop working. And then I'm like, oh. And so then I force myself to, disengage with all of that. And I'm like, oh, I actually have space and time to spend with them. And they're going to get older very fast. And I never have a regret of not spending time with them because I'm an entrepreneur. But also as a mom, it's important to still also be mom. And so there's times where I just dedicate to them. I still pick up my son, drop him off. Same for both kids, but I built my life that way. It's very difficult, I feel like, for women to juggle business and motherhood sometimes. But I believe my story and just being authentic and showing some of the chaos lets everyone know that there is no balance. People always say, this is a question everyone asks, do you think there's balance? I'm like, what is that?
We don't ask that silly question on this, because of course there's not. But you know what there is? There's you being an older lady and not having to figure out how you're going to be a professional dancer with them knees. And there's you having something that you can pass on to the next generation.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about being the first in the family to build all of that. So I attribute my life to being like the grandfather who came to New York from wherever and started shining shoes. And now the kids own the company that makes shoe shining, whatever. So it really feels like that. It really is like that. And so I just want to encourage more people to start that journey so that their kids don't have to. I always tell my son, like, please tell your kids about me. I'm like, don't let, I
so
promise
sweet.
you,
You're gonna be like Madam C.J. Walker. There'll be like a little image of you. Well, because by that time it'll be like a hologram, so there'll be this archaic thing called a picture, and it'll be you in a stretch.
for real.
And then say, now she was the first Black franchisee in America, and she created an institution to help others do the same.
Because so many of our kids don't know who family members are. We don't talk about it. But for me, I'm like, please tell them about what I went through so that they can feel proud, but also take the baton and keep going.
Our time's almost up, but I cannot let you leave without participating in my favorite segment, which is called Mompreneurs Manifestation. I'm really excited about yours because you manifested the most. I always ask each guest, what are you trying to make happen? And how can we help bring it into the universe for you?
Okay, genie in a bottle. Let's see. So what I'm trying to make happen, I'm trying to show entrepreneurs that there is more to life than having one shop, working in the shop, getting tired, getting exhausted, quitting, or even opening a second shop, third shop, and using all of your resources, hiring all the staff. It gets very exhausting. So I am trying to show entrepreneurs that there is another way, by way of franchising, that they can turn their business into an actual asset. We always talk about assets, but we never think of our business as an asset. So if you guys can help me spread the word and let people know that Black Box franchising exists, not just for people ready to sell their concepts, but like you said, for people who need to get their house in order. We account it to like going to Harvard and Yale in 3 months. All the information that you'll receive.
It's fantastic. And for those people who aren't there yet for Black Box, you have other opportunities for them. You mentioned the stealth program that you operate. Where can people find all this information out, Kika? Is there a website?
So Instagram is my business card. So you can follow me, Kika IAM, KIKAIAM, and you'll see all the information about Black Box franchising, all the information about Hands Off CEO for all of the new entrepreneurs. And it's just an ecosystem for motivation and also help.
And if people want to be part of Black Box, is there a specific website for that?
Yes, blackboxfranchising.com. We have webinars all week long. You can hop in, learn all about it. And then by the end, you can either join our free community and just learn about business, or you can move towards franchise development. And it's also Black Box franchising on all social media platforms.
And what if people want to get their stretch on? Where can they go to learn more?
Kika Stretch Studios.com. Find your nearest location. And like I said, we have a few underway that will be launching in June. So we expect more centers to open across the country.
That's amazing. Out of curiosity, your very first customer, the mogul who lived in the attic of one of his 70 houses, who bought your very first package, have you been in touch with him since? Does he know of your success?
Yeah, he does. And him and his wife, and they've been back to Stretch. Now, I was in the basement. After the little shared space, I went to the basement of a restaurant. Then I went to the storefront. So they actually got to see the storefront. And he's always like, I'm so proud of you. And he really understands the whole journey. What I would love to say to him is, I'm sorry, my overhead got above my means. But I brought it back down. So, but yeah, it's nice to see people now who were a part of my journey when I first began.
But also, there's no business that doesn't get too big for their britches at some point. Most businesses, it's just that, do they have the float to make it look easy when they fall, you know? So you can't look back and say, oh, well, I shouldn't have done that, because when you know better, you do better, and you know better. And not only are you doing better, but you're helping others to do the same.
I'm like, I have my floating devices on, girl. I'm just floating. Like, no, that's so, and
just like,
I know we're out
in a padded bubble of entrepreneurship.
And I know we're out of time, but like, people go into entrepreneurship to be successful for the rest of their life. And I just want people to know that there's ebbs and flows. You're going to have the greatest amount of success as an entrepreneur because you control your own destiny, but you're also going to have moments where you fall down and are completely depleted, but you'll get back up again. So be ready for all of that.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for what you're doing, the work that you're doing. I love it. Let me know how I can be a resource to you.
Okay, guys, she is a resource to all of us in so many different ways, whether you need to get stretched or whether you need to stretch your business limitations. Thank you all for listening to Mompreneurs and for watching us if you're on YouTube or social media. As a reminder, a brand new episode goes live each week on Urban One Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit urban1podcast.com to learn more. That's urban1podcast.com.